in practice, qualifying, but when they get on the track, all bets are off.
I think the only guy that really is consistent when he does really good during qualifying is Tomac.
Well, he doesn't get good starts. If he doesn't
No. I think he's been getting much better starts this year. What about Ferrandis? Like, he qualifies really well every time. Do you look at him when you're putting your top 5 in?
I always look at him, but every time I pick him, he bones me. He's dead to me. I'm never going to put him in my top 5 ever again.
So if he qualifies first,
no.
You don't care.
He's qualified first the last couple of weeks. He's up there. Top 3, top 2.
And when you put him in your top 5?
Yeah, that's it. He's dead to me. I'm telling you. Never will I put him in my top 5.
No.
No. Never. No.
All right. We don't really discuss that.
Well, you should ask me.
We're both in the same group.
Fantasy,
yeah. Yeah. All right. The show's about to start. Give me a minute.
You're live.
Let's get down to the starting line. I'll tell you about what you're going to see on tonight's show. And the next time, try this segment. We've got a really great video on a tool that I used this week. I think you're really going to enjoy that. In the Moto Showcase, Jeff Kokoski has sent us in a couple of Can-Ams. Here's the problem. Good questions coming up for you there tonight. What's it worth? We've got a 1973 Bultaco 125. In the Just How I See It segment, we are going to be talking about your bikes. But your fantasy bikes. What was your dream bike? What was a bike you always wanted? Did you get it? Was the fantasy greater than the reality when you finally did get it? Have you not gotten it yet? We're going to be talking a lot about that in the show. I want you to leave comments about that. What else do we have coming up here? Oh, trivia returns. We'll talk about the question there and the great prize that we have. And that's it. We got all that and a whole lot more coming up on Vintage Motocross Q&A. Stick around. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A, and I am your host, Joe Abadi. Thank you, Jordan, Chelsea, and Susie, and all you folks at home for watching the show tonight. Let's get right into it. Don't forget, you got to share the show. Keep sharing the show, whether you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube. If you're watching the show on YouTube, please comment Motion Pro. We will have a random share giveaway winner a little bit later on tonight. The winner will win one of these illustrious, beautiful sticker sheets, compliments of Vinco.com. In fact, I have 2 different sheets. They're really generous over there, Jay and Kurt Leverton. We've got 2 different sheets. You'll get your choice of which one you would like. So keep sharing the show. Our YouTube channel, don't forget, subscribe to that. You can see all of our shows that we've done in the past couple of years, plus all of the interviews we've done from Vintage Motocross Radio. So keep subscribing and telling your friends to subscribe to our show on YouTube. When you do, you get a little alert just like this. It tells you when we're live. How are the pros watching the show? How are the experts watching it? They're sitting back on their couch watching the show on YouTube or Facebook from their big screen TV. That's a great way to enjoy the show. On your big screen TV while you're commenting through your phone. So try that next time also. Now, I got to thank our sponsors, as always, Vinco, Motion Pro, Racer X, Preston Petty Products, Full Circle Racing, Bill's Pipes, Northwest Mako CZ, and Sunrise Vapor Blasting.
On tonight's Next Time Try This segment, I want to talk to you about how to remove a spring from a shock. Now, whether you have to rebuild a pair of shocks, you want to change the spring rate on your bike, or you just want to paint the bodies, whatever it may be, you want to be able to get that spring off so you get it down to looking like this. But that spring has a lot of pressure on it, And maybe sometimes if you're in your shop, you could push down on it while you get one of your friends to pull that retaining collar out, but it's not so safe and it doesn't always work. And depending on if you have a shock that has a very high rate of spring, you might not be able to pull that down with your hands. So I'm going to show you this little tool that I bought this week. It only cost me 30 bucks. I'm going to show you how it works right now. The kit we purchased came in a little box just like this, and I purchased it on a popular auction site. Inside that box, we've got the following items. These two pieces are going to connect to your spring up on the top. These two pieces will connect to this piece on the bottom, which will go on the bottom of your shock this way. They did not supply a bolt and a nut like this, so I just went onto the shelf and got one. So you'd put these two pieces on just like this. These two pieces also have to be put together. Just grab a regular 12 and a 13 millimeter wrench, tighten them up a little bit. Same thing for this one. Get those tightened up a bit. You're going to want to hook this up to your shock spring. Now, this is the first time I'm doing it. I just took it out of the box. Okay, so it's going to look like that. When I tighten these two nuts, it should compress the spring. Let's give that a try. But I could see even doing it by hand, the spring is starting to come down just a little bit. I'm going to turn these nuts evenly, a couple of turns each. Keep it balanced. Keep this pivot point on the bottom straight. And I'm going to turn it this way so you can see the spring, or where the spring retainer cap is right there. You'll be able to see that it is coming down as I tighten these nuts. I think it's just about down far enough already to where I might be able to get that cap out. And this is about the safest way and the best way you could ever get a spring off of a shock. There you go. We've got it off, got the spring compressed, and we're going to let some pressure back off. Then we can get our tool off the shock, remove the spring. We can continue on with whatever we want to do with our shock. If we want to paint it, whatever kind of service you want to do on your shock, that's how you want to compress the spring and get it off safely. It's not something you could really do without this tool. Well, you saw how that little tool worked. It worked great, and there's really no substitute for it. So when you want to get that spring off your shock next time, try that. The right tool for the right job.
Minco's running a special this week for a rod kit for 1985 through 1987 Honda CR125. The kit comes complete with everything you see here: the rod, the big bearing, the pin, the wrist pin bearing, the thrust washers, everything you see right here. Get your 85 through 87 Honda CR125 running great again. $89.95, just $89.95 at Vinco. Keep the ride going. In the Moto Showcase tonight, we take a look at not one bike, but two bikes that were sent in to us by our good friend, Jeff Kokoski. Jeff's always giving us some great content for the show, and he sent in these two bikes. And I'm going to read to you a little bit about it, and then I'm going to tell you there's another thing going on too that has to do with Can-Ams, but I'll save that for the end when I get done here. Let's see what Jeff has to say about these two Can-Ams. A couple of weeks ago, I sent you a note about what a good experience I had working with a company called U-Ship to get a couple of Can-Ams moved back across the country. Now, I would like to share with you some details of those Can-Ams. They were purchased for a high school buddy of mine, Dave Eklund, who lives here in central Pennsylvania. Dave has been looking for a Can-Am 370 and found a 1979 MX-5 370 on Craigslist in Phoenix, Arizona. The seller also had a 1979 MX-5 that he was selling, and Dave decided that, well, two Can-Ams would be better than one. So I helped him arrange shipping from Arizona to Pennsylvania. Both bikes originally came from Kaplan Cycles, which happens to be in Connecticut, and they were sold in a vintage auction in 2017. They were shipped to Gilbert, Arizona. They're in very good condition. I would consider them rebuilds or partial restorations. Now, the 250 utilizes the Rotax rotary valve intake, while the 370 uses case reeds intakes from the Rotax dropped the rotary valve design the prior year on the MX-4. The 370, first introduced the prior year as a Can-Am's entry into the open MX market, came with the frame, engine cases, cylinder, and head painted orange. The 250 had orange colored frame, but kept the black cases, and the cylinder and the head happened to be painted silver. Since Rotax made engines for other companies as their parent, they did have different serial numbers, and on these bikes, the serial numbers were different. Both bikes had orange Preston Petty fenders, front and rear, so I thought they were aftermarket items. However, I ran across a couple of articles from magazines at the time, and they did mention that Preston Petty supplied the fenders for those bikes. Out back, the bikes originally came with gas Girlings, which were orange painted springs, but they've been replaced. We may try to source those Girlings as they were really great shocks at that time. At the front end, both bikes have 38 millimeter Marzocchi forks and almost 11 inches of travel. The forks are air adjustable. They have OEM Schrader valves and caps. The forks on the Can-Am unique setup that you could change the fork rake from 27 to 34 degrees. Yeah, Jeff, a lot of people don't know that they do have a concentric type of bearing in there, and you can change the rake and trail on that bike. Both bikes also came with the original V-braced handlebars. The 370 bars were painted black and had orange grips. They had long reach Magura levers on them and had covers on them as well. All in all, both bikes are great examples, mostly original 79 MX5 machines, but my buddy Dave didn't purchase them to do a brochure restoration. He bought them both to have some fun and get out there racing some vintage events again. Jeff Kokoski, I want to thank you for sending that in. It was an interesting article, or an interesting segment really, because you talked about shipping them from U-Ship. You talked about how you got the bikes across the country, what the bikes were like, and how you helped out your buddy Dave. And that's a really, really great story. Jeff Kokoski, because you are a longtime listener and you do contribute to the show, we can give you a beautiful mug like this, compliments of Preston Petty products. And if you like, Jeff, I'm going to throw in a Vintage Motocross Q&A t-shirt for you as well. But I think you bought one back in New York sometime in January. Either way, Jeff, get me your address and I'll get you a mug and a shirt if you want one. Now, I did say something about a little announcement. It's going to be coming up at the end of March. It's a huge Can-Am event. I would call it an international event. I can't say too much about it right now because the news will be breaking from a couple of different sources. Bombardier is behind it, Can-Am, and everybody that had something to do with Can-Am is scheduled to be there. Keep watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. We'll tell you more about it a little bit later on in March. And I will be at that event too. I've been asked to be the MC. Preston Petty Products. Always a great item coming across to us from our friend Paul Stannard. They are looking for dealers, so if you do want to become a retail dealer for Preston Petty Products, get a hold of Paul Stannard. This week their special is a Petty Special bolt-on, the Petty Special is a front plate and two fenders. The integral tail light and the headlight combo on the number plate, $265.95. They do come in a variety of colors too, not just white, which I'm showing you here on the slide tonight. Now, we're going to take a minute because I want to show you something that was sent to me by Paul Stannard and Mike Murphy. They were working on this thing. Well, this was the last project that Preston Petty was working on before he passed away a few months ago. And what Preston wanted to have was a number plate like this with a light in there, but it had a self-contained battery. And Preston got to see the prototype. He got to see it work. But now the prototypes are finished. This is one of the first ones. This will be on sale in the coming weeks. But I wanted to mention to you that it's exceptionally bright. Over 1,200 lumens come out of this headlight. And it's got a beautiful setup on the back. Again, it is a prototype, so these little zip ties aren't going to be there. You're going to have some Velcro that wraps around back there. But what this light is capable of is giving you 1,200 lumens of light for up to 6 hours. Now, it does come with a charger just like this. It only weighs about 5 ounces more than the regular Preston Petty integrated light system that they had with the LED, or some of them had the old incandescent bulbs in them. Now, this is going to be available for $199.95. But if you come back and watch the show next week, they are going to be available, and there's going to be a special discount rate only for people who are watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. You will get a code. Now, I also wanted to mention that Paul Stannard worked with Preston on this, but so did Mike Murphy, who works closely with Paul Stannard, and Carl Crank was another gentleman who was working with Preston on this light. It really works fabulously. Paul did send me a little note here. Please charge the battery. We supplied the charger with, charge it up, and the light should be good for 5 hours. I did charge it up the other day. I let it run all day today. I just turned it back on for the show. It's still as bright as when I first charged it up. Spare lithium batteries will be available for just $40 more. So if you're out on the trail and you're out there for more than 5 hours, you need a little help with that, you could always charge up the battery. And what Paul tells me now is that they're going to be making a little pigtail that goes on the back of that light, where you could run the wire back to your integrated taillight for your Preston Petty fender. So if you're one of those guys that want to have a roadworthy bike, a legal bike with lights on it front and rear, but you don't want to get involved with lighting coils and wiring and so much more, Preston Petty, once again, well, Preston Petty, but especially Paul Stannard, Mike Murphy, of course, and the late call Crank was involved in this as well. They've got the answer to what you've been looking for. $199.95, a special discount coming up next week for Vintage Motocross Q&A viewers. And there it is. Incredible. Thanks, Paul Stannard, Mike Murphy, Preston. I'm sure you're watching from above. And yeah, get a hold of me if you want to have one of those lights. Or watch the show next week. You'll get a special code. What do we got next, Jordan? In the Here's the Problem segment tonight, some of the questions that have come in over the past few weeks, we will address some of them. Jordan, what do we got up first? Susie, how am I doing so far, right?
I think you're doing excellent, Joe.
Thank you. Rick Torres, can you discuss tire pressure in different track conditions? I ride in the Northeast where tracks and dirt vary quite a bit. Yeah, I can. And being from the Northeast, I can certainly confirm that they do. First thing you want to do is get yourself a good tire pressure gauge, but I think you did tell me that you did buy one, Rick, and you want to know more about what type of pressure you can use. I put a couple of slides here together. Might make it a little bit easier for me to explain it and for you to understand it as well as the other viewers. Well, I've learned that in muddy conditions, you want to start off between 9 to 10 pounds. That's for front and rear. Now, in real muddy conditions, I've heard of guys going down to 8 pounds. That tire is going to open up a little bit. It's going to be a little bit softer. The compound is going to be a little bit softer, and you're going to get a lot more traction. So I've heard of guys running as low as 8 pounds in deep mud, but 9 to 10 is where you want to start off. Coming up next on the slide is in the woods. Now, you've got a lot of rocks that are exposed out there, a lot of hardwood, a lot of roots. I've seen a lot of bent rims come out of enduro riders bikes or bikes that are restored here that were ridden a lot on trails where there are a lot of rocks. You want to make your tire pressure a little bit higher there, probably going up between 12.5 and 13 pounds front and rear. Again, these are just kind of a barometer that I'm giving you of where you want to begin. But on the trail stuff where you got some hard rocks, especially out there in the Northeast, Rick, you're going to want to go with probably 13 pounds at least on the trails. Some other advice I could offer you is that in sand, you're up there in Southwick, you're out there in Long Island, wherever it might be, you got a real sandy track, 10 to 11 pounds front and rear. Again, experiment a little, but 10 to 11 pounds is what most of the guys would run in a track like Southwick or somewhere maybe out in the island where you got some deep sand. Last but not least, we've got that beautiful loam that you might find up in Unadilla. Up there, you might want to run like a 12 PSI in your tire. Get yourself a quality gauge, experiment a little bit with it, but the numbers that I've given you here are numbers that I've run throughout the years when I was living in the Northeast, and they're going to be a real good baseline for you to start with when you're running different tracks, different tires, and with different types of dirt, rock. What else do they have out there? Certainly sand, and a lot of wood chips mixed in with some stuff. But anyway, Rick Torres, thanks for the question, and I hope that helped you out a little bit. Jerry Cantone, I own a set of Inter-Am solid aluminum bars, and I want to re-anodize them. What's the procedure, and what do I do about gouges? These are a little bit of a collector's item. Not too many pop up anymore. I see them selling for between $75 and $100. The bar is pretty wide. They can be cut. It's you'll find some that haven't been cut yet too. It's a real interesting piece. Solid aluminum bar all the way through. What Jerry is talking about here is what does he do about the gouges? Now, it is aluminum. A qualified welder will probably be able to fill in those scratches for you. And something to keep in mind, though, whatever type of filler rod that he uses, it's going to be a lot harder than the aluminum handlebar itself. You're going to have to smooth them out, sand them down a little bit before you get them anodized. Also, you want to get all the old anodizing off, and you want to polish them to a pretty high luster before you give them to your plater to re-anodize them. And don't be surprised that when the weld doesn't quite match the aluminum that's in there, if there's a little disparity in color, when it comes back from your anodizer, you're going to see a little bit of a difference too. That gold that he fills in with the weld rod, the filler rod, might be a little bit darker or sometimes a little bit lighter, but usually a little bit darker than the anodizing that they're going to put on those bars once you have them refinished. But it's a really cool item from the 70s, Inter-Am bars. Thanks for the question, Jerry. Robert Hopkins, I want to replace the ball bearings in the steering stem of several bikes with some tapered bearings. Can you give me some removal and reinstallation tips? Yeah, I can. Number one, to get them out is a lot easier than you might think. It's a little crude, but really is the best way to do it. You want to get a long punch or a brass bar or something like that. You go through the top bearing race, tap out the bottom one like you see here in this little drawing on the left, and then do the same thing from the bottom. On the bottom right there, we just have a picture of a set of regular ball bearings with races and caps. But you want to get those cups out, and that's really, really the easiest way to get them out. Now, in the top, you're going to see those nice new tapered roller bearings. You don't want to put those back in with a hammer or a block of wood. You want to get yourself a nice bearing driver just like this. It will go from the top and the bottom. As you can see, the cups are in the same shape, that cone design as the bearings are. Run that nut up, and you put them in nice and evenly. Yeah, you can put the bearings in the freezer for 10 minutes or so. It's going to shrink them down a little bit. You probably don't want to heat up your frame. It's probably got a nice paint job on it, so there's no need to try and expand it and contract the bearings at all. But putting the bearings in the freezer for a couple of minutes and then putting them in with the proper tool like this, Bob, is really, really the best way to do it. And that goes for any bike that you're putting them on. Thanks for the question.
Hi, I'm Warren Reed. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Jeff with Motion Pro, introducing you to the Masterlink Press Tool. Now, the Masterlink Press Tool is an innovative addition to our wide variety of chain tools here at Motion Pro, and what makes this tool so unique is that it both presses on and presses off Masterlink side plates. It's designed to be used with all 50 series clip-style links and performs the job very easily. The Masterlink Press Tool is constructed with a billet aluminum body and hardened steel pins for long-lasting durability. It's affordably priced at $28.99 and is available from your favorite dealers nationwide.
You know, we just had that question from Rick Horace just a couple of minutes ago about tire pressure in different riding conditions. I'd be interested in hearing from you, the viewers. If you want to type in what you use as far as tire pressure goes on your bikes and different tracks, you're more than welcome to get involved with the show. I encourage you to do that, okay? So keep those comments coming about tire pressure. What's it worth? Got a nice bike coming up tonight, and this is, of course, the segment of the show where I encourage you, the viewers at home, to comment about what you think this bike recently sold for. I will tell you the deal did sell in Arizona back in January, and it is a 73 Bultaco 125, but it's got a little bit of an interesting twist to it. So, as I read the description and Jordan goes through the slides, put in your best guess on what you think this bike recently sold for. The bike would be in very nice a collector piece. It is a custom 125 with many upgraded period correct parts, including an NOS 175 complete top end. By installing the larger top end, the bike produced a lot more power. It was easily accomplished as most bottom ends were compatible with the larger top ends, and it would fit on with no modification. It is a matching numbers bike. The bike runs great. It's nice and responsive. All the gears shift and the clutch performs flawlessly as it should. The bike starts easily when cold, and with a good prime tickle from that Amel carburetor, it starts easily once it's warm. The 175% top end is a matching top end, as I mentioned earlier in my description. It has an Amel 932 carb, number 434 with an Amel slide, and he goes on to talk about the jetting and the carburetor as well. Some other upgrades that he talks about are Coney Poppy body shocks with S&W springs, gold airport caps, NOS Dave Hall billet innovation pipe, spring-loaded chain tension to both front and rear wheels, have new Bultaco, new Buchanan spokes in them with Bultaco rims. There are no cracks or dents in the rims. The Magneto is a FEMSA unit. It's got a healthy spark. Many new parts went into the bike, including the chain sprocket, tires, tubes, petcocks, ignition coil points, condenser, and so much more. The rear fender is fiberglass. Nothing leaks. Nothing is cracked. The original side panels are from this bike. They are not replacements. And all Bultaco hardware is in the bike. Trans and internal engine parts look great, as well as the engine cases. Everything on the bike is pretty much original with the exception of the spokes. Now, the bike does appear to be really, really in nice condition, and they did slip in a 175 top end on that bike. So, interesting. I don't know anybody that's ever done that, but it looks like obviously it can be done. So, 73 Bultaco in beautiful condition. It does have a couple of upgrades, and it does have a 175 top end. What do you think this bike recently sold for? $4,500, $6,500, $5,000. This bike sold in Arizona for $5,500. $5,500. 73 Bultaco, 125 and a 175 top end on it. Full Circle Racing is still running a great special up there. My buddy Tom McAllister will powder coat both front and rear hubs for your bike for just $50 a piece. For $10 more, he'll do the bracking plates as well. They come in gloss and semi-gloss or satin, whichever you prefer. For just $20 more, Tom will give you a custom color for a one-time fee. Don't forget, Tom McAllister, Full Circle Racing, all your needs for your spokes, for your on-road, off-road, dual-purpose bikes. Tom McAllister's got it all up there at Full Circle Racing. Trivia. We're back to trivia, and don't forget to keep sharing the show, because we are going to have a random share giveaway a little bit later in the show. But right now, as promised, we do have a trivia contest. I do have the loveliest operator in the world sitting by, and the prize tonight is for this book, Discovering 6 Days by Keith Geisner, also the author of that fabulous book, Finding Number 49, we were giving away last year. But right now, Keith has got another one out there, Discovering 6 Days, and I've got an enduro question for you. Jordan, put the up on the board here, and let's see what the people know about national enduros. First national enduro champion was Lou Atkinson in 1961. I didn't know national enduro championships went back that far, but yeah, 1961, Lou Atkinson. Now, who was the second national enduro champion who won it 7 times in a row from 1962 to 1968? He rode a Triumph, and it's not who you think it might be. He won 7 years in a row. He was the second champion. He rode a Triumph. Who is he? Don't forget, it's a call-in contest. Call in now, 925-234-8181. That's 925-234-8181. Susie is standing by. We'll have your answer live on the air in just a few minutes. But right now, let's get back to the show. Did you know that the Jones family brought some interesting products to motocross back in the golden era of the time, 1974, 75, 76. Gary, his brother Dwayne, and of course Papa Jones, Don Jones, they had Jones motocross products, and they came out with some interesting clutch covers that were made for the YZs. Did a lot of upgrades on the YZs. They came out with rim foam. I don't know if you remember rim foam that would go into those shouldered rims so mud wouldn't pack up in there. But maybe in one of their more creative but less, shall I say, useful times, I don't know. But if you got kids in the room, I advise you remove them right now as I explain this product to you. Jordan, let's see the slide. There it is. The Jones Ball Grip. The Jones Ball Grip was said to do a variety of things, including not scratching the paint on your truck when you leaned it against it. It did other things, including not breaking the levers on your bike when you fell down. It was also said to be a great stress reliever when a guy was sitting on the line getting ready for his moto. He would grab those balls and squeeze them on the end, relax his arms a little bit. I don't know if it did all those things or not, but it certainly looked kind of funny. And today is, well, I don't know if it's sought after so much, but it does bring up some interesting comments on social media whenever you see them. So there it is, the Jones Ball Grip, the Jones Ball Grip. Compliments of Gary Jones and the Jones family. Now you could say you knew. Anyway, Sunrise Vapor Blasting. My good buddy Mark Farriester down there in Modesto, still running that machine and running it like a professional. So whether you have something that is made of aluminum, magnesium, titanium, whatever metal it might be, if you want to get it cleaner than new, cleaner than it ever was, mail it down to Mark Farriester. He's got some really reasonable rates and extremely fast turnaround time. The metal will come back without the profile change, whether it's a carburetor, a flywheel, a set of aluminum body shocks, whatever it might be. And it doesn't only have to be for a motorcycle, whether it floats, flies, or rolls. Mark Farriester is going to take good care of you the same way he's been taking care of me for over a year now. Thank you, Mark Farriester and Sunrise Vapor Blasting. We're going to take a commercial break. Don't forget to keep sharing the show. When we get back, we will have tonight's random share giveaway winner, as well, I hope, as tonight's trivia contest winner. We'll be right back after this message.
Classic and vintage dirt bikes are more than a hobby. It's not just about the ride. It's about the work that goes in. The work that keeps you connected to the ride. It's about bringing the bike back to life and doing it with your own hands. It's about the adrenaline and adventure. And when it comes to putting all the pieces together, only Vinco knows the bikes and parts the way you do. Vinco, keep the ride going.
All right, Susie's not back yet with our winner for the trivia contest, and I'm sure she'll bring in the random share giveaway winner when she does return with our trivia contest winner. So right now, Jordan, yeah, they can keep calling in, sure. 925-234-8181. The trivia question was in 1961. First winner was Atkins, the National Enduro Champion, but who was the second National Enduro Champion who won it for 7 years in a row? First National Enduro Champion, Lou Atkinson, 1961. Who was the second winner who won it 7 times in a row aboard a Triumph? Call in now if you got the answer. 925-234-8181. Thanks for saving me there, Jordan, and going back to that slide. But for right now, we will go on with This Week in Motocross Trivia. I'm sorry, This Week in Motocross History. This Week in Motocross History is brought to you by Racer X Magazine. Don't forget to check them out online and on your newsstand now. Racer X, one of the finest publications on your newsstand. Racer X. Oh, we got an ad in the back every month, too. Thanks, Scott Wallenberg. Everybody over at Racer X. 1975, the Cobalt Comet. The Cobalt Comet. The second AMA Supercross Series began in Texas Stadium outside of Dallas, and the 250cc winner was Can-Am's Jimmy Ellis, who topped Honda's Marty Smith and Suzuki's Bill Grassi. The 500cc class was won by Mako rider Steve Stackable, a native of Texas. Jim Ellis's dad, George, was his Can-Am mechanic, and he won the Dallas Supercross opener in 1975. And remember what I told you a little bit earlier about a big Can-Am event coming up? Keep thinking about it. Jimmy Ellis is going to be there from what I hear. Let's move on. 1980. Chuck Rising Sun. He's out there in Georgia. Chuck Rising Sun won his one and only Supercross on This Week in 1980 at the Atlanta's Old Fulton County Stadium. Sun, a renowned mud rider from Oregon, future AMA Motorcycle Hall of Famer, put his skills to work in the wet, cold night in Georgia to score a win. Finishing a career best second was Suzuki's Brian Myerscough, with 2 more Suzuki riders, Mark Barnett and Danny Laporte, finishing right behind them. Susie, don't forget we need a random share giveaway winner as well. You have that, and we have on the phone our trivia contest winner. I'm gonna wrap up the MX history, and then we'll get to the phone and see who's calling us. Okay? So yeah, Chuck Sun won at Fulton County Stadium in Georgia. What do we got next, Jordan? 1980, 1991. That's a wrap for Ricky. The realization hit Team Honda that Ricky Johnson, suffering from the inability to grip with his left wrist and also losing feeling during the middle of the races, would have to retire from professional motocross. Johnson, who first injured his wrist on March 5th, 1989 at the Gatorback National in a practice collision. With that, the record book closed on Johnson's brilliant career. 7 major titles, 28 AMA Supercross wins, an all-time record for quite some time, and multiple Motocross Trophy of the Nations and Grand Prix wins. His last race entry in the vault, according to Racer X Magazine, was an 8th place in 1991 at San Diego Supercross. He was 26 years old at the time of retirement, and that's what's happening this week in motocross history. Now, let's get back to our trivia contest winner. This is Joe Abadi. You're on the air at Vintage Motocross Q&A. Who am I speaking with?
Mark Hector.
Mark Hector. Good evening, Mark. Thanks for calling in. Our question was, who was the second guy in 1962 to 1968 aboard a Triumph to become a national enduro champion? 7 years in a row. Who would that be?
Bill Byard, I think you pronounce his last name.
Jim Baird. That's actually correct. You said it. That's close enough. Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Mark, did you, I think you won one time. You won a book, too, for Finding Number 49.
I did.
So Get your address to Susie. I'm going to give the phone back to you. Oh, she has your address already. So we will get out this new great book by Keith Geisner, Discovering 6 Days, story about motorcycle friendship and the International 6-Day Trials history. Thanks again, Mark. Thanks for calling in.
Okay, great show, Joe.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay. And we also have, might as well do this right now too, our random share giveaway winner is Jay Estes. Jay Estes. E-S-T-E-S. Jay, you're a winner of this nice sticker sheet, compliments of Vinco.com. We've got a couple of different ones here, so let me know which one you want. Get us your address. We'll get one in the mail to you. Thanks for sharing the show, Jay Estes. Now, we are going to the Just How I See It segment. We talked a little bit about this earlier in the show about dream bikes and what was your fantasy bike, if you got one or not. I really encourage people to get involved. This is a great part of the show where Susie gets involved, where you get involved with your comments. But yeah, your dream bike, was the fantasy better than the reality? I know throughout time there was a couple of different bikes that I wanted and I wound up getting, and some were not so great, some were absolutely amazing. I remember buying a 1974 YZ250 just based on what I read about it and the history of the bike. But what about a bike that you bought? Did you wait a long time to get something and maybe were not so pleased with it when you bought it, or maybe you were even happier than you thought? Another bike I bought that I didn't think I was going to like that much was a 1975 Can-Am MX250, but I was riding a CZ before that. So after getting off at CZ, I really liked the Can-Am. It wasn't really high on my list, but it was a deal that came along, and I was really happy that I got a chance to experience that bike. But what about you? What bike did you have a fantasy of having? Did you get it yet? Do you still plan on getting it? Did you get it? Was it as great as you thought it would be? Put your comments in. I'm anxious to hear about it. Yeah, here's another really great bike that a lot of people would like to have. 1976 Kawasaki KX250. I think this bike right here belongs to I can't think of his name right now. Anyway, it's a beautiful bike, and it's a bike that I often go to when I am restoring Kawasaki for a little inspiration. And yeah, you know, here's something. Here's a bike I wanted. A 74 Honda CR 125. Always wanted a bike. Didn't get a chance to race one back in the early 70s. Bought one. I really disliked it intently. I really didn't like the bike at all. In fact, I remember on the way home from the track, I was calling people in my car, trying to get people to buy it, and I sold it shortly after. But it was a dream bike for a lot of people. Keep the comments coming. I will be asking Susie in just a moment what some of those comments may be. And I want to hear a lot more from you. Jordan, what do we have up next? Or do we want to talk about some of those comments right now? Let's go into the announcements a bit. Unless Susie has some interesting comments for us.
Brian Webley says his dream bike was
Brian Webley.
a 1978 RM 250C2, but he settled for a 1980 RM 250.
Did he like it once he got it?
He didn't say. He just said that.
Okay.
Mark Warren says any maker.
Mark Warren says any Mako. What's Gino yapping about now? Any Mako. Is his dream bike or that he actually got it?
He just says any Mako.
Okay.
Philip Liberty says a 1975 Suzuki RM 125. I should have bought a Yamaha monoshock.
You know, Phil, that's funny that you say that, because at that time, 1975, that RM 125M was a hot-looking bike with the downpipe, and it was such a big upgrade from the Suzuki TM 125. But I, too, went out that summer, late August of 1975, and got myself a YZ 125C. I'm kind of happy I did. But as far as from a collector standpoint, yeah, I could see you wanting a half-year model only 75 YZ RM 125M. I'm restoring one here right now for Winthrop Bears. We're going to have it wrapped up in the next couple of weeks. Philip Liberty, always sharing the show, too. Brian, what?
Brian Webley said that he didn't like it. He still has it. But I guess he's referring to
the Suzuki?
Yeah.
Okay.
Philip, Jason Herman, 1974 YZ250A. No comment whether he liked it or didn't. John.
Well, that's what I mean. If it's your dream bike, I'd like to hear that it's your dream bike and you don't have it, or if it was your dream bike, you did get it and you were happy or you weren't happy, something like that.
John Lockwood, dream bike, 1996 TM300.
Who's that?
John Lockwood.
John Lockwood, a TM300. Okay.
Mark Hector, 1978 CR250 Honda, best bike of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Gary Kane, 1974 Yamaha YC125, and still have it.
Who's that? Gary Plaget?
Gary Kane.
Oh, Gary Kane.
Yeah. Bill Raleigh says dream bike, 07 CR250R.
Oh, okay. That's not too tall of an order. You could probably get out there and get an 07 CR250R.
Sal Scarpa, the third.
Sal Scarpa. Welcome back, Paisan. What do we got from Sal?
He wanted an 84 CR500, kept it for 1 month, and sold it for half what I paid.
Because you didn't like it, Sal?
He didn't say.
All right. Hey, Sal, thanks for joining us again. And that kind of wraps it up for Dream Bikes. Was your fantasy better than your reality? I want to thank everybody for putting in their comments. And yeah, let's move on to the next segment. So unless Susie has something really juicy. Anything juicy for me?
Anything really juicy.
No more juice?
No.
All right, Suze.
All right.
Thanks for coming in.
You guys, you got to put in juicy questions and answers.
All right. The announcements brought to you by Bill's Pipes. Bill's Pipes, check them out on Facebook. That's the best place to get a hold of them. They're doing a little bit of a rebuilding job on their social media, but I'm sure you can get a hold of them on Facebook. I know you can. There's a phone number on there. There's an email on there. They'll also answer questions for you about Bill's Pipes. And I want to thank them, by the way. I want to thank Bill's Pipes for winning their sponsorship. They were on for 3 months. It ended March 1st. It started again. They came back for another 3 months. Anybody watching the show that's thinking about becoming a sponsor, think about that. We've been offering these little specials to some of the smaller companies like Bill's Pipes, Sunrise Vapor Blasting, and Northwest Mako CZ. And we've been doing it on these little 3 month runs, and they've been coming back, and we appreciate that. What do we got next, Jordan? My good buddy, Scott Barth. SoCal Vintage MX Classic is coming up at Verona Oaks. That's happening May 1st, March, April, May, just 2 months away. SoCal Vintage MX Classic from the Burners. The 2022 ARMA Northwest racing schedule is out. They got races starting on March 18th all the way out until October 2nd. There is a change in their schedule at this time. Friday, 3/18 cross-country race has been canceled. They will be moving it to Saturday, 3/19. It will be a double points race, and I understand that my good buddy and producer, Jordan Woodworth, will be at that race on his Mako. ACR. Great organization back there in the Northeast, American Classic Racing. They race some really, really amazing tracks out there from Southwick to Unadilla, Budds Creek, Broome Tioga, a lot of national circuit tracks, and they've been doing it for a long time now. So check out their schedule and see when you could get in the mix with the guys from American Classic Racing. A race for every rider, a class for every bike. It almost sounds like a poem. Anyway, that's what's happening out there at the Midwest Vintage Motocross. They've got their event schedule up. It starts June 25th. It also ends late in October. So get over to the Midwest Vintage Motocross website, or you'll see them on Facebook. Find out more about all the races they have for every bike you might have. Don't forget, send in your club's events. Send them in to me, inbox me, or just send me a private message, and I'll get them on the show, just like I did for all these other groups here that have events coming up. Spring is just around the corner. Get them on, and I'll put them here on the show. But I'm an administrator of this other group, USA Vintage Motocross Races and Events, a really well-organized Facebook group where they have events by the month. They've got them by the club. And they're just, there's an album section that if you're looking for a race, maybe you're in a different part of the country at a different time of the year, you want to know if there's an event you can catch out there, go become a member of USA Vintage Motocross Races and Events. You'll find out about everything that's going on there. The finish line. Northwest Mako CZ has got a great little special going on this week, whether it's a carb intake for a Mako, a Mako Airbox insert, or miscellaneous filters. You got a filter for like 50 different Hondas over there. And what all these items have in common is they're all under $19.95 this week at Northwest Mako CZ. Thank you, Alan Brown. Vintage Motocross Q&A t-shirts and hoodies are still available. T-shirts are just $19.99. They come in gray and in white. They have the logo across the front with my autograph and a little live with Joe Abadi across the back. You could still get hoodies as well for a couple of bucks more. Follow the description. Follow the link in the show description. Get yourself a shirt. Vintage Motocross Q&A sponsorship opportunities. I just mentioned a couple of minutes. All of our little bit of a smaller sponsor, whether it's Sunrise Vapor Blasting, Northwest Mako CZ, or who is it? Sunrise, Northwest. Oh, Bill's Pipes, my good buddy at Bill's Pipes. Yeah, they've all re-upped for another 3 months. They're all seeing results from advertising here on the show. We're reaching 20,000 people a week just on Facebook. There's more on YouTube, and don't forget we are on 2 television stations out in Southampton. That is in Long Island, New York. We are on LTV channels 22 and 23. Soon to be announced a couple of more of public access television stations once I work out a few details with them. So yeah, if you got a product, you want to get it on the show, I'd be more than happy to speak to you, get you a sponsorship proposal package. I think that about wraps it up this night for Vintage Motocross Q&A. I want to thank my lovely assistant, Susie, for taking in the questions on the just how I see it and doing all the other stuff that you do, including probably making dinner before we even went on and did the show tonight. Thank you, everybody who watched and commented. Don't forget to keep sharing the show. Congratulations to Jay Estes for sharing the show. And Gino, come on, wait. There comes Gino. Great job, Gino. Yeah, we're good. Good night, everyone. Thanks for watching the show.